or with that internal dilemma that I want to deal with vis-a-vis the work. But some others are not that at all. Some are, I see something or I read something or I'm talking to someone and they say something that makes me feel compelled to create a narrative around whatever that thing is. And those are constructed very much through like research, where I am talking to other people, where I am reading a lot, where I am watching a lot of, YouTube videos or documentaries about the subject, and then finding that link between that external research that I'm doing and then the internal thing. Because there always has to be a marrying of Yaqui's feelings and how he sort of navigates certain situations or how he responds to certain things. There always has to be a marrying of that very personal with, again, that sort of external research that I'm doing. And so each project requires something else. Prime example, I'm working on something right now, which I'm very excited about. And it is the story of a man named Edwin Debro Jr. who killed a cab driver when he was 12. And he was sentenced to 40 years in prison at age 12. He served 29 years. And last year, I think it was last year, 2019 actually, August of 2019, he was released from prison at the age of 40. He wrote a manuscript that me and another producing partner own the rights to, and so I am adapting that story. It's all there, right? I mean, he wrote it, it's his story. But as I am constructing the piece, I realize that there's also going to have to be a lot of me in it. And what I mean by that is the thing that I think attracted me to the story in the first place is that we grew up on the east side of San Antonio. We had acquaintances. His sister and my sister used to hang out back in the day. His grandmother lived across the hall from me at one point. We lived on similar streets, same neighborhood, same schools, the whole nine. And so our lives have a lot of similarities, but they also have major differences. And so as I'm exploring Edwin's story, that's that external. The internal part is Yaqui really sort of wrestling with himself and asking those really difficult questions of what did Edwin not have that I had? What is the thing that kept me from becoming him, right? And vice versa. Yeah. And so, it's, again, the project sort of determines the construction.
No, turning down, big corporations, because I feel like they shrink people, they manipulate people.
They do, because you got to remember something. Their bottom line is dollars and cents. And that's why I said what I said earlier. It's like when you get into any field of entertainment, you got to understand that ultimately the people that are greenlighting, all they care about is money. Yeah. They don't care about you as an artist. They don't care about your voice. That has nothing to do with them. If they feel like your voice can make them money, of course they love you. That's why you see people who have made gazillions of dollars for record companies, and then the minute they flop, their record companies drop them. How loyal to me is that after 2 bad or 3 bad albums, you just decide that I'm not worth it after I've made you $1 billion? It doesn't make any sense, but it does make complete sense, because that means that our relationship was always transactional. Yeah. Transaction being my art made you money, and as long as that was good, we good. But the minute that that's no longer happening, I am no longer an asset to you, which is sad, because that means I was never a friend to you in the first place. You never cared about me. And that goes to my point. When you're around people who are just exploiting you and using you, you can lose yourself, because you base your worth off of their approval and off of their paycheck. I don't want to do that. My worth is based off of my art. Yes, I want people to like the art. I want people to be affected by the art. I want to sort of use art as a means to help change the world in some small way. But I will not be beholden to someone who I feel like tries to use me to exploit me and then will throw me away, because that's not, in my opinion, me using the gift that God gave me in the way that I'm supposed to use it.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's why I respect independent workers, independent artists, because they're constantly challenging the status quo and they're challenging the system. Certain months we focus on certain cultures. do you think that also creates a type of separation within our society? Because to me, history is very whitewashed, and you have to like, I think in a way, school has its boundaries because it's biased, and you have to go outside those boundaries to learn.
Yes, and that's why I think, celebrating women during,
March,
Women's Month and Black History Month, February, right? I think celebrating sort of different cultures and peoples during special months is good, but I also think that is a cop-out to not have to integrate their narratives and their stories into the mainstream or the main education, right?
Absolutely.
I shouldn't have to not only wait till February to hear about Black people, but I'm tired of only hearing about Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
And Frederick Douglass. There's too many other people that I should be learning about the Black Panthers.
Hey, Fred Hampton.
Right? That's who I should be learning about. Seriously. I should be learning about Black liberation movements. I should be learning about Black liberation theology. I should be teaching my students about Nat Turner and like why that revolt had to happen. I should be talking about the Haitian Revolution. Right?
Yeah.
These are things that we should know about, but again, history has been so whitewashed because the victor is able to tell the story. And Texas is the most egregious, I think. Our books, the textbooks that we use in school, I mean, they have done things like called slaves helpers, refused to say a slave trade, have refused to talk about the brutality that happened to Black bodies on plantations and that continue to happen to Black bodies. I mean, refuse to acknowledge that bias and racism exists. It's shameful. But this is one of the reasons why we keep seeing this stuff happen over and over again, because until you look at it in the face and talk about it very candidly, you're going to keep repeating it.
Absolutely. I think, and it goes through generations. There's so many ways where our minds can get lost and just be stuck to this one type of thinking process, because I believe school's part of the system, working, everything. I mean, there's so many different elements that can trap you in just a little box.
Well, yeah, because it was interesting. I was talking about, we've been talking about anti-racist pedagogy a lot, and how to, as we call it, decolonize what you teach in the classroom, which is what we're talking about right now. And we had a facilitator come in, and I thought what she said was great. She said, we're talking about pedagogy right now, but she says we cannot talk about it in a silo. You must talk about culture and climate, just like you talk about what you teach in the classroom, just like you talk about what's happening with the George Floyd trial, just like you talk about colonialism in Brazil and colonialism, in Africa and every other place in the world, because to try to separate them is not to acknowledge that they are all interconnected, right? All of this is interconnected. The fact that for years we refused to acknowledge that Christopher Columbus came to this country and slaughtered and gave syphilis and STDs to literally kill off whole tribes of human beings so that they could take their land. The fact that it took us hundreds of years to get to a place where we even felt like that was okay to say, that is a problem.
Yeah.
Because again, that's us refusing to acknowledge the truth. There is no, as Raoul Peck says in Exterminate All the Brutes, that there is no revisionist history. There are just lies and truths. Right? There's the lie and then there's the truth.
Yeah.
And we need to just acknowledge, stop saying that, this is us rewriting history. No. We're exhuming the truth. Let's tell what really happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I spoke to one of my teachers, and she said, well, the history of life is cruel. Well, humans are cruel.
They are.
And it's best if we just know now until we know years later, and then who knows what can happen. Once people know the truth years later on, they become even more crazier, in my opinion. Straight up.
Well, because it when you have lived a certain way for so long and somebody comes and disrupts that, it's jarring. I mean, you got to keep this in mind. What happened at the Capitol, right? These people going in and jump, right? That is the result of people for the first time looking themselves in the mirror and realizing, oh, what they're saying about me is true. This is real. Like, I am, and I have been racist. I come from a racist lineage. I have white privilege that other people do not possess. My positionality in the world is a much more privileged one than they had, no matter how hard I work or not work, right? There are things that are coming to the forefront, and that is driving people completely insane because it disrupts everything that they've been taught since the day they were born.
Yeah.
Right? When you've been taught that you are the salt of the earth, and then you realize you're not. I mean, it's just like the college scandal, right? So you have all these kids who believe that they got into school because they were just the smartest. And then they realize that, wait a minute, I wasn't the smartest. Like, my mom wrote a $2 million check to get me into a school, which makes no sense to me, by the way. Why would I pay $2 million to get my kid into Harvard? I'm confused, because why not just like put the $2 million in the trust fund and let them figure out what they want to do with their lives?
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. But my point is, when you discover that you are not the brightest and the best, and that actually your family, they were able to purchase, right, you a ticket into whatever university you wanted to get into, while others who were more deserving academically could not get in because they could not pay for the ticket of admission or pay the price of admission. That is disruptive on so many levels, because that's a moment of catharsis, right? Where one, you literally, and when I say catharsis, I mean that everything that you have known has to come up. And if you're smart, you're going to have a cathartic moment and begin to change. But sometimes before you can get there, you almost want to persecute the people that enlightened you.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, they have disrupted your equilibrium. And that's what we're seeing in this country right now. I mean, people going through right now. I mean, there's a mass shooting every other day. This last week, I think we've had 5 or 6. That's very telling. There are people who are in a place of psychological trauma because the truth is coming out. Now, don't get me wrong. We also got people who are psychologically traumatized because of COVID, psychologically traumatized because they lost their jobs. There's a lot of other things that are happening as well. But some of this is, in my opinion, sadly, whiteness finally having to face the fact that it has sort of created an ideology that is not true.
You could definitely see it like that, and it's sad to say that it had to come down to a pandemic because people were isolated, and people were stuck to their phones and they were reading all these things. And man, if you really listen to what artists say, you can really paint a picture of how society is.
Yeah, man.
Like,
I mean,
music to me is so powerful.
I think well, I forget the painter, but he says like art should change the temperature of the room. And I believe that, he's talking about painting, but that's any art. That's any good piece of music, to your point. That's a good piece of poetry. That's a great novel. That's a great film, short film, a great commercial, right? A great YouTube video, right? Whatever we are, because media is everywhere now, right? We can't get away from it. But I do believe that if you follow the conscious artists, you will see a roadmap for liberation, because that's what we're creating through our art. We're speaking to what is ailing and illing our world, right? We're speaking to the things that are making us paralyzed, the things that are stopping us from being able to not only face ourselves, but once we face ourselves, being able to have the breakthrough that we need. We're speaking to how capitalism has destroyed us, right? How the love of money has destroyed us, how greed has destroyed us. Again, how a refusal to acknowledge history has destroyed us. We're speaking to all of that through our art, and artists have always done that. And to your point, I think the powers that be understand that. That's why they're always attacking art in school, because they understand that the artist will raise the consciousness of the people.
Yeah,
they get that. They know that. And so what do? You strip the ability to teach art out of schools which then you actually strip the artistic muscle out of the children, because you know how powerful it is when it has been strengthened, when it has been exercised, and when an artist is really able to work unbothered, right? And really able to do and make some money. We got to eat. People understand that artists should not be working for free. We must eat. We must buy our kids diapers. We must put a roof over our families' heads. We got to do all that, right? But the powers that be get that, and they know the power of art, and they understand how art challenges. That's why every great artist has been attacked.
Yeah.
You know?
Right now, I think in a way we're in a sort of like a period where, like, we're in a Renaissance period. I would say entrepreneurs, but also Renaissance, where, you know, artists from different fields, whether it's music, painting, you know, it could even be podcasting, whatever it is, that, you know, they're still challenging the status quo. And, you know, it's different expressions, but there's just so much, I would say, wrongdoing in society that we're challenging. But not even with just society, but even within ourselves too. There's a battle that we have to face within ourselves. You know, I believe personally we have to overcome ourselves before we can overcome anything else.
This is true. I mean, I think a great artist first sort of deals with their internal demons.
Yeah.
And their internal trauma. And if they are true to that, that's how art becomes, in my opinion, a mechanism for freedom. Because if I had freed myself vis-a-vis my art, then when I expose other people to it, they will also get free, right? But you know, this idea of a renaissance, I do think that we're seeing more independent artists have the opportunity to get their work out more than we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because now there are so many different ways to get it out, right? The gatekeepers, don't get me wrong, there's still gatekeepers, obviously, but slowly I think the gatekeepers are going away, because you can't police everything that's out there. You can't police YouTube. You can't police TikTok, right? You can't, to a certain extent you can, but I can get my stuff out there, right? And so I do think we're seeing artists who have been shut out, shut down, silenced. Finally having the opportunity, you know, to get their work out vis-a-vis all of these sort of platforms that are out there. My other sort of thought on that is, I think it's both the Renaissance and the Dark Ages, and I say that because now you're seeing a bunch of, you know, crap, honestly, that is hitting the airwaves that some people need to go back and learn their craft, right? You should really study what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. Have a voice, have a position, have something to say, have a reason for creating. There are too many people out here who just want to get rich, and it's nothing. You should want to do whatever you want to do, but you should also understand that wanting money is not in my opinion, a reason for doing anything.
Yeah.
Because money comes and goes. You will find the money.
It's material.
Yes, and guess what? To your point, you can't take it with you. And yeah, you could leave it to your kids maybe, but which I would love to leave a great inheritance to my son. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But I think that the thing that I will leave him that will last much longer is the idea of work ethic, the idea of having empathy, the idea of really fighting for what's right, the idea of being a social justice activist, a warrior, of using your voice to sort of combat societal ills, of using your voice to amplify the voices of those who have been silenced and have not had the opportunity to speak, of sort of making way for the invisible to become visible, and creating art that transforms the world. I want my art to be transformational. If I leave that is eternal. Right? Transformational art is eternal. Shakespeare is eternal. Baldwin will be eternal. Right? There are some people who, even after they're dead thousands of years, we will know who they are because of the legacy and the work that they left on the earth. That's what wealth is to me.
Yeah.
Having the ability to do that.
I mean, I think in a way, you know, we're all rich when we're born. You know, we're all rich if kind of think of it like that. But, you know, with whatever you want to do in life, if you do it within your process, the way you want to do it, the money is just going to come how you said. I think if we chase the money, it becomes an illusion. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Blow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know that movie with Johnny Depp, he said it at the end, you know, my father told me that money was an illusion, and it took me, you know, like basically my whole life in jail to realize that money's an illusion.
It is, man. And look, I think we need money, don't get me wrong. Like, I think that's the thing that...
Of course.
That becomes... the sort of fight that we have, the internal battle, is that on one hand, you don't want to love it, but on the other hand, you know that you need it to survive.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think money is an illusion when it is used the wrong way and when it is chased solely to have. Right? Because it will come and go.
Yeah.
And if it's your drug of choice, which is so many people's drug of choice, you will do anything to attain it. You will put yourself in positions that morally you may not be able to come back from. Because I just want to be able to sleep at night. And I'm also a spiritual person, and I want God to be happy with what I'm doing. Right? And I mean that. It don't mean I'm always going to do things right. Don't mean I'm perfect. I'm flawed. I'm crazy. Yeah. There's so many things about me that I'm insane, right? I'm one of them crazy folks. But I am a very sort of prayerful person when it comes to, like, why am I doing this and what am I doing it for? Because I, again, believe that all of us are vessels to be used to do something transformational while we are here. And if we do not catch wind of that, we will be chasing all of these other material things, again, that are mere illusions. Yeah. Because they will go away.
There's a certain philosophy that I've looked into. It's called Taoism. And it talks about that, you know, materials, they, in a way, it's like you're holding all these materials and all they're doing is pressing you down. And one day there could be a storm and everything that you have and own is gone. And you know what's going to happen next?
You have nothing because you don't know who you are without those things. I want to know who I am if I'm in the desert, and I want to know who I am if I'm in a mansion. Because if I'm in the mansion and it's foreclosed on and I can't pay it anymore, I still want to just have peace. Yeah. It's funny, I was laying at my house last night, and I was laying in the bed looking out. You can see the living room from my bedroom. And I was like, man, I don't care how big, if I get some, 5,000 square foot mansion. If I lost it all and I had to come back to this house, I would be happy. Because I want to be content with me. If I'm happy, if my family's good, if I know that what I am doing is, again, creating something meaningful and good for the world, I'm happy. Yeah. As long as we can eat, I'm good. Now, if you can't eat, then that's a whole nother thing.
You gotta start growing your stuff.
Right, there you go.
Hey, but you can.
I have to learn that, right? But yeah, I just want to be happy, man, and I want to really change the game, but I want to change the game on my terms. I don't want to be forced into a box, and I'm willing to take as much time. If that means I don't do it till I'm 70. I'm good with that. Yeah. Whatever.
Exodus Filmworks, is that your company? That's what you started?
It is.
Where do you want to see that? How far do you want to see that go within the world?
Yeah, man. I mean, I would love for Exodus to be many things. The first is obviously it's my production home, right? It's where I want all of my work to come through. I want to continue to produce my films through Exodus. I want to continue. Hopefully, at some point, I want to have bigger deals. I want to do TV, right? I want to have a TV show. I would love to direct television. I want to get to a place where I'm making a feature film every year at some point, if I can. And then I also want Exodus to become a hub for independent artists. I want to produce other people's content. If I had, $1 billion, if I had Jeff Bezos money, right?
Oh. I'd be in an island.
Right? But you couldn't stop me from literally scouring every film school, every film group that had black and brown folks in it, and every year producing $1 million, $2 million feature. I don't care if I lost the money. What difference does it make? Yeah. I don't know how much the man is worth. It's insane. right? If I'm that's what I'm doing, because I understand that that's how you create legacy, right? And I want to do that, right? I want to support these artists. I want to see their work fully realized. I want to give opportunities to artists who are constantly shut out, because I've been shut out from so many institutions.
Yeah.
Right, because my work was too black, it was too gritty, it was too it felt like you were taking your medicine, is what somebody told me one time. I've heard everything. It's not going to fit the audience, or it's not for us right now, or oh, we love the audacity. You hear all this. I was about to curse. You hear all this stuff.
All good.
That means absolutely nothing to me, except you don't want the work, and means that you don't have a home for me, and that's cool, because I'm going to make a home for myself. But ultimately, I want Exodus to become a home for other artists as well. I want to produce. I want to produce music videos. I would love to see Exodus, not only produce music videos, but produce music. I used to sing. I don't want to sing, but I would love to find, some young artists who we could, make their album and get them. I mean, I want to do it all. I want to find a way for Exodus not to just be Exodus Filmworks, but to become a hub for all types of entertainment to come through it.
I respect that. I mean, why not, And it gives people a platform to be creative and show themselves, express themselves. And that's what art is.
Exactly.
Art is, do you think money would help people? Like the people that, poor people. Do you think money would help poor people? How do you think we can help our society?
Yeah, I think money will help, but I also think education will help. What do they say? Give a man fish and he eats for one night. Teach a man to fish and he eats for a lifetime.
Yeah.
I think that it's key that we sort of create a much more equitable ecosystem, right? Where people who are struggling paycheck to paycheck don't have to do that. People who want to send their kids to better schools can do that. And when I say send them to better schools, what I'm really saying is those neighborhoods where the schools are subpar, that we funnel money into those to bring them up, so that these kids are getting the same education as the kids in Alamo Heights, as the kids, in Lake Travis or wherever it may be.
Yeah. That
these kids are getting an equitable education, that as a parent I don't have to go and pay $4,000 a month or whatever to send my kid to some fancy private school, $1,500, however much the things cost. I don't have to do that in order to get them a top-notch education. That the public school that I pay taxes, we got to remember that I pay for, that it is a school that will educate my kid and educate them holistically. Not train them to be robots for the system, but train them to think for themselves. Right? So money does help that. But I think money is only the first step. You can't give somebody who doesn't know how to manage money $1 million, because they will lose it in a year.
Spend it quick, yeah.
You know why? Because they've never had anything. So they're going to go buy the house and the car and the this and the that and the blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, they're going to be back on the streets again. But if you put that money somewhere for them and you teach them how to manage it, and you teach them how to invest it, and you teach them about, again, wealth management and about home ownership, you teach them about all of those things, I think that person will not only have your million, but in some years they'll be a multimillionaire, because you have taught them how to use that money to work for them and work for their community.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. I think education is one thing that we need to reconstruct within the system, within society, is education. Because, I mean, knowledge is power, and power is knowledge when you have action to back it up. But even then, I mean, education is a tool for survival.
Yeah. But in the wrong hands, it is a tool of imprisonment, right?
Yeah.
I think education can either liberate you or imprison you. Sadly, our education system is all about imprisoning all of us. Even those of us who think we got it, we don't realize that all we're doing is making money for somebody that's richer than us.
Yeah.
Right? And we live okay, but honestly, what are we doing? We're not building anything to leave for, and this is another thing we're not building anything to leave for our families, but also, this is how I always think about it. If you got hurt today, would your employer replace you tomorrow?
Probably.
So that should let you know that you should not spend your whole life slaving for them. You should be using what you're doing for them as a tool to create your own business, to find a way to create your own art, to find a way to create something that you can leave for your children. Because if you're not doing that, again, your kids going to have to do the same thing you've been doing all these years.
Yeah. I mean, creating is the essence of life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you help people? First, you have to get us to realize that we are imprisoned in our minds. Get us to realize that the ways that we have been going about living is wrong. The ways in which we've been going about dealing with our neighbor is wrong. The ways in which we only think about our house and our kid, that's wrong, right?
Yeah.
So if we can get there first, then we can start devising a plan. But honestly, I don't think half of humanity would even agree with what I just said.
And, going on that, I would say, because you said earlier you were a very spiritual man, and I would say I'm a very spiritual man. And I grew up in a Roman Catholic household. I don't consider myself Catholic, but that's another end, just because I feel like I haven't even read the full Bible yet. But there's certain quotes from the Bible that have stuck to me that, are very important. Like, as man sharpens man, iron sharpens iron. We know we need to sharpen each other. One of the things that Jesus said was, loving your neighbors. And I think that is such a key component in life is, being close to your neighbors, because friends and neighbors are two completely different things. Yeah. But, you need to trust your neighbors, because in a way that's your backyard.
Yeah, man. And, sharpening iron is a we say these things, but that's a violent action. It really is.
Yeah. Iron sharp.
I mean, we think about, literally, if you think about what it means to sharpen some iron, you have to put it in the fire and you're beating it, right? Then you're sharp, right? That there's gonna be bruising that comes with that. There's gonna be maybe some permanent damage that comes with that. This is just it.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you are forming a new mind, when you're transforming somebody. And that's what we're seeing now. First comes the rejection of that sharpening. Because when I sharpen you, what I am doing is I am cutting out all of the shit that has kept you bound. And I am exposing it to you. And that is hard, because when I begin to make you look yourself in the mirror, and we all have to do this. I keep hitting the mic. We all have to do this work. But that's hard. I mean, therapy is hard. I've sat in the therapist's office and talked to my therapist, and it's like, man, did I just say that? And wow, did she just read me like that in a way that I don't even know if I knew how to read myself?
Yeah, well, and my brother said it best. Therapists rape your mind. The word rapist isn't therapist. Therapists are literally raping your mind.
And that's a violent act. I'm not gonna call it a rape, because that right. Yeah. But what he's saying is that what they're doing is they are literally going through the darkest corridors of your spirit and your thinking, and they are pulling those things out and revealing them to you and making you face the things that you have buried deep within yourself. That is a violent act. That's why a lot of people are afraid.
Yeah.
Keep this in mind. One of the reasons why we're afraid to be by ourselves is because we're afraid to think. One, for ourselves, but also we're afraid of the thoughts that come up when we shut out the world.
Yeah.
Because that's when you really got to deal with you. And that's hard.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of people had to experience that with COVID through isolation.
There you go. I'm sure this has been, for me, it's funny. It didn't hit me until later where I was like, ooh, I got to get out of the house. But I can imagine that if you're always out, you're always with other people, you're partying all the time, you're dating, and I'm sure this was traumatic. Yeah. This was very traumatic, because now you're at home by yourself. And I'm not in any ways advocating for you to be alone, because I do think we need other people. There's a stimuli.
Of course.
Right? That is touched. I lost my train of thought. But there's something that happens when you're around other people.
Of course.
And so we need that. But I also think there's a level of needing to be alone. Right? There's a season for that. But it's a scary place to be.
I mean, it is a scary place. And one of the things that I learned from like being, because during COVID you're by yourself, isolation is, by being alone for so long, you realize you don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
But it's important to be alone, to really know who you are, because I don't think that many people in this world know who they are. So once you, I believe, in order, if you want to change something, if you want to change the world, change people's perspective, you need to look deep within yourself to change yourself and fix yourself.
Yeah. I mean, transformation first happens within before you can transform anybody else.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of us haven't done that work. And it's not about, again, back to the whole money thing. For some reason, we think that, making money makes us whole. There are too many rich people that are jumping off of bridges. They hate themselves. And it's not because of the money. It's because all they wanted was the money. Right? It's because their whole life was built around it. They don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
Right? I want to know who I am first. Because if I know who I am first, when I get the money, I cannot be manipulated by the money. Money will manipulate you if you're not careful. Yeah. Somebody said fame is traumatic. It was a pastor that I was listening to, and that's true. Fame and fortune are traumatic because of what you said earlier, more money, more problems. Because the minute you get it, now out of the woodworks comes every person that you've ever known who needs something from you.
Trying to reach.
They want it. And you feel bad when you don't give it to them, right?
But you can teach them.
That's what you should be doing. I don't want to give you money. I want to send you to college.
Yeah.
Right. Or I want to help you start your business if you don't want to go to college. Everybody don't want to go to college. That's fine. I'm gonna help you open your bakery. I'm gonna help you open your law firm. I'm gonna help you do that.
Teach you how to fish.
Because guess what? If I lose money and I helped you, maybe I can come back and get a loan.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know if you feel the same way, but there's like a certain feeling you get when you help someone. I mean, I'm pretty. There's times where I don't want to help people, but I end up, falling to the guilt. All right, I'll help you. But it's that, I would say gratification afterwards when you actually help someone. How they're happy. And you're like, well, wow, I really helped them.
Yes, but we have to be careful. Because I know in my life what I've found is that sometimes when I'm helping people, I'm doing more harm to them because I am not allowing them. Sometimes you got to fall in order to get up and really, really sort of
fly.
But to get your life together, right? I have to let you hit rock bottom. That's I don't know if it's an AA term or it's some term about hitting rock bottom. Maybe it's a drug term, but people need to hit rock bottom, right? Because it's in rock bottom where you either sink or you swim. But if I keep helping you, I keep you right above it, and you'll never hit it. And guess what? I now have to be your lifelong bank, counselor, best friend, everything, because you don't know who you are and you don't have nothing for yourself. I want to teach you to have something for yourself so you can help somebody else, and then that person who you help can help another person. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Effect, yeah. If it ain't that, I can't, I've done this a lot in my life.
What life has taught me, and I saw this little video on YouTube by Carl Jung. He said that there's no rules in life, and I truly agree. There's no rules in life. I know we have laws within our society and whatnot, but I mean, life is life can be cruel.
It can be, but I think
it could also make it your heaven.
Yeah, but I think it can be cruel, but I don't think it's to break us. It's to
test us
and sharpen us, to your point. I think for me, every obstacle that I've been put in, I always think that God is using it to move me closer and closer to my destiny.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's sharpening me. God is showing me things about myself that I need to fix. God is closing doors because I would walk through them because I want the thing so bad. But God closes the doors and then teaches you why he closed the door. And I think we must accept that.
What do you think that conscious is that talks to us? Do you think that's God?
Yeah, when people say, oh, something told me not to do that, I do think that's God. I think I think God speaks to everybody. We don't all call it God, but I do think that God speaks to us all. We just don't know the voice. Because first of all, we've been taught wrong. We think God sounds like, James Earl Jones or Morgan Freeman, right?
Yeah.
That deep. Like, no, God probably sounds just like you. And talks to you in a language that you understand. If you talk slang, God coming just like that. If you the most proper person in the world, God's coming like that. I'm country is all out. God's coming to talk to me just like this. As crazy, as insane as I talk, God's coming to talk. Because God's going to speak a language that I understand. No translation is needed.
Yeah.
Right? Thou shalt and all that. That's old English that I don't even quite understand.
Yeah.
Right? Speak to me the way I, And so, yeah, I think that is God talking to you. But we don't listen. I have not listened before, and I find myself in trouble.
100%.
Right? But that's a lesson, too. The lesson being that next time I tell you to do something, fucking do it. Excuse my language.
No, all good.
Right? Listen. And that's what God wants. God is tired of having to sift through all of our drama. And he gonna keep trying to sift through it, but I think it gets exhausting for God.
Yeah.
It's too much. I'm exhausted with it. I'm exhausted with my own drama, and so we gotta let that stuff go and really it's interesting that we started with that meditation because I even found myself, and I'm guilty of this, like I should be doing that every morning. It should center me. It should allow me to hear myself, hear from God. It should allow me to go through my day more calm, more cool, more collective. It should level me. Right? That's what that kind of stuff does.
Yeah.
But it's hard. He told me to hold my breath for a minute and a half, I think. I can't hold my... But guess what? If I keep doing it every day, after a while, I could probably hold my breath for 2 minutes with no problem. We have to strengthen these muscles. You have to strengthen your ear to hear from your creator. You have to strengthen this muscle of being an overcomer, of fighting, right? Of not giving up. A lot of us, we lose because we give up, not because we're not talented. We just say, I can't do this anymore. Maybe this wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I know it's meant for me. But I've said that. Man, this is hard. Maybe I should be doing something else. But I always hear God say, nah, this is just the process, bro. Deal with it.
Yeah. Even when you're with people, you don't have to talk all the time. Listen. And, that's so important is, I think we fail to listen a lot,
It's so funny. I think one of the biggest skills that I teach my students when it comes to the art of directing actors is you must listen and you must watch. Right? Stop talking so much. I used to think that a director was somebody who got on set and just talked a mile a minute. No, actually a director is gentle and usually listens more than speaks. Because I am exchanging something with you. I'm not always giving something to you. Sometimes I'm getting from you, my actor.
Yeah.
I'm learning from you. Right? I'm in some ways creating a world based upon something that you're saying to me. Other times it's about you hearing me. But we must learn to listen and we must learn to be still and we must learn, just to sometimes have patience. That's another thing. As a director, patience is king, right? Patience is the thing that, in my opinion, will separate the good director from the bad director. Because if you're impatient, you don't allow the actor to experiment to get you to where it is you need them to go.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen immediately. Nothing happen. We want to microwave everything. A microwave blessing, a microwave life, a microwave movie. I do cook in the microwave sometimes because I don't know how to cook, so I'm warming stuff up. But I don't want a microwave life.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want my films to feel microwave where I'm rushing through them. I want to take time with it. I want to love on it. I want to sit with it. That's what I want to do. And I think for me, that's when God can really speak, when you shut out all the noise. Because how do you even know if it's God talking to you if you let everybody else... I mean, what do we do? The first thing we do usually when we want advice, we pick up the phone and call somebody.
Yeah.
Why? The first person you need to be consulting with is your creator. And then you can get the advice. I'm not saying don't get the advice. What I'm saying is the first voice I need to hear is from the one who brought me into the earth. Right? Who knew me before I knew myself, who knew me before my parents, laid down and consummated they whatever to have me.
Know your script.
Right? That's who I need to know. And that's who I need to hear from. Then I can get that other stuff. But once I have that implanted in my head, because usually the first piece of advice sticks with you.
Yeah.
It's the thing that anchors you. So I want to be anchored by God's advice. And then the other stuff, don't get me wrong, I've taken a lot of advice and you need it. But hear from your creator first.
100%. Yeah, you need to hear from the director inside.
Yeah, you have to.
And we literally enslave ourselves within our mind.
Yeah, well, we've been taught to do it, though.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Nobody teaches you to be free. They do not. You got to remember, again, even the richest amongst us, they have been programmed to work for a system, an institution. That's exactly what our education has done. It has not taught us to think for ourselves, to build our own corporation. It hasn't done that. That actually is counter to what it wants to do, because it needs you to come and work for its industry or whatever. Yeah. You need it. They need you. So they train you to do that, and so you believe that's all you can do.
They never encourage you to start your own business, be your own boss,
Why
entrepreneur.
Would they?
They always say when you get ready into the workforce, and it's those boundaries, trying to keep you enclosed within that system.
I love what you just said, because it's just like language is so powerful. Nobody ever says in school, so when you get ready to open up your own business, to your point, when you get ready to go to college, when you get ready to go out into the world and work in the workforce, when you get ready to go into the military, right? That's all we think about. There are so many other ways to live a life.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to live a life. We want to work 40 years, get a pension, and retire. Nothing wrong with that if that's, what you want to do, but I don't want to do that. I'm not interested. Yaqui wants to be Yaqui, wants to be his own man, wants to create the work that he wants to create. Again, wants to change the world with the work that he creates, and wants to do it on his own terms.
Yeah. Our work, in a way, should be our therapy.
Yeah, it is.
Something we love doing, something that, in a way, frees our mind.
85% of people hate their jobs.
That's true.
They hate them.
And they probably hate themselves. I hate to say it, but they probably do.
Of course. Well, yeah, because I think that deep down inside, we all kind of know that there's something wrong with it, but we don't know what to do about it. I mean, I even think about this whole notion of like police abolition, right? Like, we all know that it's necessary. The question is, who can imagine what it looks like? And that's what's scary to people. We can't even imagine another sort of way of I don't even want to call it fighting crime, but another way of policing. We can't even imagine what a carceral system would look like if we not sending young kids to jail for selling weed, for selling drugs, without really thinking, okay, maybe the reason why they're out here selling weed is because somebody at home can't afford something. How can we help that situation?
Yeah.
The problem is our imagination, because again, we've all been indoctrinated to believe that it is only one way for this thing to work. That's the scariest part. That's why when people say, "Oh, that's you're a heretic, or you're a that's treason, or whatever it may be," it's like I don't even understand that. Why? The thing that we're dealing with right now, the way that things work, that was created out of somebody's mind, so it can be recreated. It can be thought about in a new and interesting, more equitable way that will actually work for us today in 2021. But we can't imagine that, and that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things we got to fix. I love that short film you did, Dawn, with the lady and how she just got out of jail. And, man, jail is one thing, but there's a way where, I mean, I don't know if there's a way or not, but jail should be a way for people to, when they get out, they already know what to do, instead of just throwing them back in so they can come back into jail, Well,
because see, but yes, but what you're really saying is that jail should not be a way to hide the quote unquote undesirables from society, because that's what it is.
It's isolating them.
You're not teaching them anything. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Some people come out with a degree or whatever, but some people come out worse than they were when they went in, because it is a brutal place to be, because it is a holding place where they're making money off of your head. They're not teaching you anything. They're not preparing you to come. They're not even. The one thing they're not doing, what they need to be doing, is dealing with the reason why you went to jail in the first place.
Yeah.
Why did you commit that crime? Why were you moving that dope from border to border? Right? Why did you feel the need to do that? Let's talk about that. And if we can deal with that in our society, we would see a lot of crime go away. Also, we got to remember that a lot of people that are in jail ain't committing no real crime.
Yeah.
Selling weed is not a crime. It's now $1 billion industry.
They're pharmacists, if you ask me.
My God. I could go up here now, up the street. I think I saw a CBD place coming down where I can get some back rub, a vape pen, some edibles. I can get all of it. And there are people literally locked up in jail for selling some weed on the court. It doesn't make any sense.
And the fact that it's just, I don't even get into weed too much, but it's a natural plant. That's what pisses me off even more.
It's from the earth.
It's from the earth.
And I'm not mad at it. Right? And I think it's, again, we have to stop thinking of jail as a place where criminals reside, because those people are not, everybody in jail is not a criminal.
No.
They have not done anything that warrants them some people just can't afford bail and they're in jail. So now it's about money, right? Let's get to the root of it. Because if it really was about, right, keeping me safe, the person who goes into a church and kills folks, but they can afford $250,000 bail and you let them out or whatever, that ain't keeping me safe. They can go do it again. But me, who sells a little bit of weed on the corner, I can't afford the $1,000 bill, so you keep me in for 90 days while I wait trial. It's ridiculous. And it costs me as a taxpayer more money. I would rather be using my money to send you to college. I would rather use my money to get a grant together so you can start your business, so you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. We have to reimagine the carceral system. We have to reimagine policing in this country. We have to reimagine education. We have to reimagine housing. We have to reimagine the entire structure of our country.
Yeah, because, I mean, the new prison system, it's literally the new Jim Crow.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally what it is. You got to remember, most people in there are black and brown.
Yeah. More
indigenous people are in there. Why are Native Americans in jail? Why? For what? They haven't done anything. I'm not saying. What I'm getting at is, again, you can't tell me that most crime is committed by black, brown, and indigenous people, and we make up a fraction of the population here in this country. It doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
But it makes sense from a slavery point of view. It makes sense from a money-making point of view. And it makes sense from a sort of criminalization point of view. Back to the idea of who is a criminal. A black and brown body is already criminalized the moment it comes out of its mother's womb.
Yeah. And
they're just trying to find a place and a time to put you in jail. That's just what this is. That's right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about, this Dante Wright, this young man who they killed, but she thought it was a taser. That's foolishness. You ain't thought that was no taser. You killed this man. I forget the other young man's name. I think his last name is Toledo. I forget his last name. It'll come to me in a minute. Young man, hands up, and they shoot him in the chest, and lied and said he had a gun. This is policing in the United States of America. This is racist. It is criminal, and it needs to be disrupted immediately. Because if it is not disrupted immediately, I think bad things will happen.
Oh yeah, of course. Jordan Clark, prime example too.
Yeah, I mean we can go down a list of names.
Yeah, there's always gonna be problems with cops. They just roll into their neighborhoods and just.
I grew up on the east side of San Antonio, the New Light Village, the Wheatley Courts. Cops were a constant presence in our neighborhood. Right? They were there all the time. Intimidating you, circling around, just there. That in and of itself is almost like psychologically traumatizing, because what it tells you is that as a black body, as a brown body, that there's always someone there to police your very being.
Yeah.
I'm just like at the house chilling. Why do I need to see you all the time? But you're letting me know who's in authority, and you're letting me know that if I step out of line, these are the things that will happen to me. I've watched cops kicking people's doors. The whole SWAT team roll by and they kick your door in. I've watched it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, some people are exposed to it. I never was exposed to that, but here in San Antonio, when you have more diversity, you know, a lot of my track teammates, they were black, and they told me stories, and you know, it was something I couldn't relate to, but it was something that, you know, always kind of stuck with me. Where it's just like, damn, you know, I will know how it is to be black, you know, and you know, it just, a lot of people will never get to experience it, and they shouldn't. You know, it's unfortunate.
And look, it's not about, I think when we say things like, I'll never know what it is to be black, I don't want you to know what it is to be black, but this is what I want you to know. I want you to acknowledge, as you have, and I'm not saying you, but everybody, to acknowledge that being black in this country, right, makes you a second-class citizen. That being black in this country stops you from being able to attain a certain amount of wealth, a certain type of education, a certain type of housing. That being black in this country subjugates you. That you are subjected to constant surveillance of your very body. I've had cops pat me down for no reason on this campus. In front of the theater, I had cops pull guns on me and make me get to the ground. This is the on-campus people here. This is this is in 2000 when this happened, right? Made me get down on the ground, pulled guns out on me because they said that they heard that there was a black man out here about to assault a woman with a bat. There were 15 of us rehearsing for a play. Now, if I was going to beat this woman with a bat, I would hope that the other 15 people would stop me.
Yeah.
Right? My point in this is that that's what I want you to know and acknowledge, because if we can acknowledge that those things happen, that they are real, that they are not happening in my imagination, we can work together to change the system. But as long as there are people who refuse to acknowledge it, right? I had a white woman ask me one time, I don't understand why, black people, want handouts. I mean, look at you. You're an educated professor, right? You worked hard for what you have. And I had to educate her and say, so first of all, handouts is the wrong word to use. Actually, I want reparations. I want what's due me. That's what I need, right? Second of all, when we talk about governmental handouts, there have been many white farmers in this country who were given tons of money to jumpstart their farms, right? After Reconstruct. I mean, we can go up and down the line about these sort of handouts. Let's talk about the way loans are given to me versus the way a loan is given to somebody who is white. So I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for you to get out of my way. And I'm asking for you to give me what is mine, right? Where's my 40 acres and my mule? I want it. And that's a real conversation that we must have, because again, it sounds like it almost sounds crazy when somebody says it, but you must remember that we built the roads, like we built the White House. I mean, literally, we did it all, and we have nothing to show for it. Yeah. So that's my response to her. And then my other response to her is, you don't know how privileged you are, because you'll say to me, "Oh, I worked so hard for what I have." You did work, but I also worked hard. And don't get me wrong, but the barriers for me were much higher than they were for you.
100%.
So I had to almost kill myself to get to where I am. Whereas you, don't get me wrong, you worked very hard, but there were certain doors that were open to you. There were certain things that you didn't even know were happening for you in your favor, that I had to look around and see that they were happening for you. And if I told it to you, you would say I was race baiting, that I was exaggerating, that it was happening in my imagination. So I say all that to say, we just need an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And then we need for the privileged people to be willing to give up something. I'm tired of the anti-racist trainings where we don't acknowledge that to be anti-racist means not only to fight against racism, it also means to acknowledge the racism that lives within your body, that it's in you and it's fine because you didn't ask for it. It's literally when you come out, you breathe it. Yeah. It's here. And then to really actively say, wait a minute, what is it that I can give up in order to make sure that there are those who have not had the opportunity, again, to have the education, to get the job, to get the house. What can I give up? What can I do to help that person move forward? Because I know that if I can help them, then they can help another person. That's what we need to get to. But now we're talking about this idea of socialism, because what I'm really saying is that there should be no billionaire. For what purpose? Why you need 30 houses and a plane? I'm confused. When there are people out here who are living in tents. Makes no sense to me. I pray every day that I become a billionaire.
Yeah.
I pray, and I mean this. God, make me a billionaire, because I'm going to show you what you can do with $1 billion if you have it. And I mean how you can change the world, not change your bank account, not buy 5 planes, not go on vacation every 2 weeks. That's not what this is about. And I want to go on vacation, and I want to own a nice house. For the record, I will have a nice car. I will have a nice house. And I will take my wife on as many vacations as she wants to go on. But me and her together understand this, that the money we make is not for us. That we are to give it back to the world. That's what this thing is about. Because guess what? I can't take none of it with me. None of it.
So there's 2 things I want to go on that. The first thing, and we'll go with the money. I read this book called Think and Grow Rich. You know, I don't know if you've read it yet.
I have not.
But, you know, there's said that there's no something for nothing. You know, so if you want to gain the riches, well, you have to give back too as well. Yeah. And I think that's important. You know, I want to be a billionaire, and, you know, I want to give. I don't want to just give money, but I want to give people the tools to make the money.
Yes.
You know, gardens, clean water, libraries, you know, soccer fields, football fields, give people advantages, you know, but, you know, with education, sports, and clean water and natural grown food.
And why shouldn't people have that? Right? Why does the CEO need to make $50 million a year? And I'm not saying, and look, I understand what it means. I'm an associate dean, and there's a lot of work. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure half of my colleagues don't work as many hours as I do.
Yeah.
So yes, I deserve my paycheck, but it gets to a point where, like, it can just become greed when you're making a certain amount.
Of course.
And we gotta check that, because when you feed the greedy monster inside of you, it grows and it wants more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And I don't want to be that. I just don't want to do it, you know. And to your point, it's like, this is also a biblical thing, but I just think it's a spiritual and even a natural thing. Like, you reap what you sow. And so in some ways, I want to sow goodness, and I want to sow into other people's lives, because I will reap something. I will reap something out of the exchange that we have. It may be you just blessed me with a word that I needed to hear that day, but I'm going to reap something. And so this idea of giving to get, it is true. You must plant a seed in order to see it grow. If you eat the seed, it's just going to fill your belly up for a little bit, but you're going to get nothing out of that.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, another point that I want to get back, I kind of don't want to go off topic, but, you know, as minorities, I think we go through many obstacles. But I think that's the beauty of life, when we can overcome those obstacles, overcome those boundaries, because we have so much more boundaries than the majority.
I agree. I mean, look, there's a beauty with overcoming the obstacles, but it's also sad that we have all these obstacles in our way all the time.
It is, yeah.
Right? But what you're really talking about is that right there is the thing that teaches you perseverance, right? When you can be met with obstacle after obstacle, closed door after closed door, no after no, yet you keep rising up, you keep getting up. You spend your weekend sad or whatever, but you get up on Monday and you keep going and you keep grinding and you keep fighting for what you want. That's what builds the muscle of perseverance, and that's what makes you a successful human being. Right? Success is not easy. You're never gonna get a thing, even if right now somebody wrote you a $2 million check, if you don't have a mindset of being a perseverer, if you don't have a mindset of work ethic, you'll lose it. And you'll be miserable. Right? And so again, yeah, though that weight, that pressure, as they, it's like going to the gym, as they, somebody uses this analogy. Yeah. If you want to build muscle, you got to lift weights, and sometimes lifting weights is painful. You fatigue, you tired, you don't want to go back, you hungry. There's all of these things. You could be doing other things. You'd rather lay up with your lady, your partner, and watch Netflix. Right? You'd rather do all of that. But if you want to be strong, you got to hit that gym, right? And I want to be mentally strong, physically strong, spiritually strong. And so there's many types of workouts that we must do. Yeah. Right? And so we must work out our mind, our spiritual man, our physical man, all of it. We got to do all of that work. And again,
can be one-dimensional.
Yeah, and those obstacles teach you that. I think I've gotten so far, and I don't take no for an answer because I've been told no so much, even growing up. People, they doubt you, they second guess you. What makes you think you can do it? Because I know I can. All you gotta do is tell me no. And I'm coming back to prove you wrong. That's just it. That's all I need to hear is no. Oh, you don't want me in your lab? That's cool. I'm gonna create my own lab. I'm gonna create my own writer's retreat. I'm gonna find the money myself to make my movie. I'm gonna do it because that's how I've had to survive my whole life. I'm a hustler. And I'm taking that with me as a professor, as a dean, as a filmmaker, as a millionaire, and as a billionaire. I'm gonna be a hustler. Because I'm going to understand that if you take everything away from me, that inside of me is the ability to get it back. Because that's how I got in the first place.
Oh, I love that. That was deep. That was pretty deep, Yaki. Well, I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask you before we cut this podcast is, so again, I love music and stuff, and I think it's interesting how timing works, So today, I was hearing Tupac, and the song "Only God Can Judge Me," and there was a line that he said, I wrote it down because it really did stick to me. Let me see if I have it. I can't find it, but he basically said that, I'm supposed to be scared of like the white man, but my own people are doing the killing here. So how can, and it's like that too with Latin culture too. There's more killing within the community than with other races. Why do you think so?
Okay, so let's debunk something. People kill the people that they're closest proximity to. So white people kill more white people, or the same amount of white people, just like black people kill more black people, just like Latin people kill more, right? Because that's who we're in relationship with. People are usually killing people that they're in relationship with.
Makes sense.
You mad at your homie, somebody slept with your girl, whatever, right? You frustrated, it's a drug deal going bad, but you're usually dealing with like the people that are like you. Right, so the idea that more black people kill, that black on black crime is really a thing is yeah, there is black on black crime, but there's white on white crime, and there's Latinx crime, there's probably Native American on Native American crime, right? Because we kill people that we're close proximity to. Okay. Another thing we have to unpack too is that when you grow up in the inner city, you have been given limited resources to survive. I always say that it is equivalent to putting 5 people in a room and throwing 1 chicken in the floor and tell them that that's all that they're going to get for 2 weeks. They will kill each other to get that chicken because they want to eat. And then once the chicken is gone, guess what they will do? They will eat each other. It's a survival mechanism, right? And I say that to say that in our inner cities, there has been so much systemic war waged on us. So many systemic inequities that we have had to deal with and battle with and grapple with, that a lot of times we are fighting one another because we cannot fight the system that did this to us, because we don't know how to fight it. So we turn on one another. That's what happens. We don't want to kill each other in this room for this chicken. We actually want to kill the person that locked the door, but I can't get to him.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't even know where they are. And as a matter of fact, if I'm in here long enough, I actually forget that they exist. I think that I locked the door because now I'm delusional and I'm hungry and I've been in here for so long. So I think that somebody in this room locked the door and ate the key, so I'm going to tear them open to find it. When in fact, the person is standing right out there with it, right? But again, and so I say that to say that, yes, we do have an issue. We must learn to love each other again. We must we must learn to trust each other again, to not turn on each other, to want to help our brother and our sister, to want to see all of us whole, to want to care for our neighbors' children the way that we would care for our own. We should want all of that, and we need to do some deep internal work because we have been so traumatized by whiteness.
Yeah.
That even if you got us out of it right now, we might find ourselves back in the same cage because there's a lot of us who don't know any other way.
Yeah.
So we must love ourselves back to wholeness. We must teach ourselves that we don't have to turn on ourselves to get, and there must be an avenue where we feel like we don't have to do it. People don't want to kill each other, for dumb stuff. Don't get me wrong. There, a man in Austin, I don't know what happened with him.
I
he
heard
went
about
and
that.
killed three folks. I think he was accused of sexual assault or something, and I think the family there's all this stuff happening. I ain't saying that people don't kill people for those various reasons, but I think a lot of times we are put in a position where we do these things in order to survive, and that's the most shameful part of it. And then we are criminalized for doing it. You got to understand that's the cycle of it all. Yeah. To your point, if I really wanted to rehabilitate you in jail, what I would do is get you an education, get you a job, remove you from the environment. But what do? I don't educate you, I don't get you a job, and I put you right back where you came from so that you can come right back through here again because I made money off of your head, right?
Yeah.
Prison is a corporation. It is a business. We must acknowledge that. There are people who have become millionaires off of, holding prisoners, off of the flesh of other people. So there's a lot it's a what I'm saying is it's very complicated and complex because we got to deal with our own black on black crime. And to Pac's point, again, these are the dudes who, they don't know another way.
Yeah.
And then the sad part is because we've been taught that there can only be one of us. I'm thinking of Nipsey Hussle. Somebody always wants you. They want what you have because they don't believe that they can attain it just like you did. Because they've been taught that there can only be one. That right there, that only happens once in a lifetime. Right? There's only one of y'all in the department.
Yeah.
So there's no room for that other person. And without us even knowing it, it's funny, my assistant was telling me, I forget the name of the chef, but she was saying how she was the only Indian woman, I believe, in this restaurant. And then when another Indian woman came in, she didn't even realize it, but there was something that almost possessed her where immediately she felt like she was in competition with the other Indian woman. She wasn't in competition with all the other white chefs that she worked with. But the Indian woman who looked like her was a threat because in her mind, they're not going to keep both of us around here. She is here to take my position, so I must eat her alive. And that's how we think, and we must get that out of our heads.
That makes 100% sense. That makes 100% sense. I actually did a paper, one of my capstones on the song "Fight the Power."
Yeah.
Public Enemy. And, most of it was a focus on, the inner cities and the problems and, all the elements that come with it. And I even watched a document on Hulu, and it was in, it's a city in New Jersey. It's not New York, Newark.
Oh, Newark, New Jersey,
Newark, Jersey. And it was a document saying how, it's not that these people want to commit crimes, but it's just that they're hungry and they need to eat. And that's the only way of survival.
There you go. And that's something that when we start to think about sort of structural racism, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think of Rosewood, right? Where you come in and you decimate a community that is thriving, a black community. There are doctors here. There are people who own beautiful homes. There are people there are theaters here, right? There's all of these things here. And you come in and you decimate it because there's a jealousy. They should not have more than you have. And then guess what? After you do it, you blame them for their own, I'm going to call it genocide in a way. You blame them for it. And that's what has always happened. If they hadn't done this, or, well, we thought that they did that. No, those are excuses. So that you can come in and, again, as Raoul Peck lays out, so you can exterminate all the brutes. Because that's what you have to see me as. I can't be fully human for you to do that to me. I have to be an animal. And that's what they have done to us forever. Think about it. They have always said black people are the closest thing to apes. Because what does that do? That justifies you murdering me like an animal in the street. That's why you can put your knee on my neck with no recourse.
They take away the humane in you.
Yes, there's a great episode of Black Mirror. I think it was in the second season, and it was like a imagined future where they give the soldiers these glasses, and they have to go out into the world, and they have to kill the zombies. So they find these people, and they're twitching, and they're coming after them, trying to kill them. And of course the soldiers do it. Well, one soldier, one day he's out there and his glasses fall off. And guess what he realizes?
He's killing another human.
He's killing other human beings who aren't threats at all. The glasses, the indoctrination, the way that they brainwashed him made him see them as animals. And so he had to murder them because he thought they were coming for him. This is what we're dealing with. This is why media is so important. Because media has played a huge part in this as well. It's the othering of another person. When you other me and make me less than you, then you feel like you have a right to do whatever it is that you want to do to my body to quote unquote protect your humanity. When in fact, I want absolutely nothing from you. I just want what I deserve.
Yeah, everything you're exposed to gives you a cloudy, foggy mind and you're not seeing clear. And, meditation, man. Meditation clears your mind.
Yes, it does. And look, that's why it's funny, I think of there's a show called The Chi that I watch.
Yeah.
There's a moment where the dude's in the middle of middle of Chicago doing yoga in the hood, it's and it's comical, but it's like, in some ways, that's exactly what we need to be doing. Let's do some yoga together.
Straight up.
Let's think this thing through, right? Let's really, really take some time, get our minds right, strategize, figure out about who we are, begin to love on each other again, and then that's when we can really devise a plan of escape. Yeah. But we must first acknowledge that we are bound, and we can't even get a collective consciousness around that, and that's the problem. You can't free somebody until they know they ain't changed.
That makes sense, man. Need to make a whole movie after this podcast. Oh well. I mean, I had a great time talking with you, Yaki. I hope to do many more podcasts with you.
I would love it.
This is probably the longest podcast I've done, but definitely the most entertaining podcast. Definitely the most entertaining. Is there anything you want to say to the people?
No, I mean, we didn't really talk about my film work a lot, but please check out my stuff, ExodusFilmWorks.com. I'm on all the social media channels at Yaki80, IG, Facebook. Yeah, and figure out what it is that you as an individual can do.
Yeah.
We all play a small part, right? In what I consider to be the liberation of all people, because even the most racist person is bound. Because if you have a sort of godlike mentality, you're bound. You don't know yourself. You're lost, right? And so I think that the more we get together and we have these conversations and we talk, and it gets messy, it gets violent, because again, that's what happens when you're disrupting a system. It's not gonna all be roses and flowers. That's just not how this thing works. But find out what we can do, you can do as an individual, and then let's get together and do it, because we need change and we need it fast. Because we will not survive if in fact we continue the way that we have been going.
This is probably the fall of the Roman Empire if it keeps going the way it's going.
Yes, it is.
But I hope not.
I hope not either. I don't want to fall.
Nah,
but I understand that we all must be ready and willing to make whatever sacrifices are necessary to liberate ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
Must be grounded.
Yes.
Must be grounded. Well, is there as far as any future projects, any of them dropping soon?
Yeah. Well, I have a anthology series called The Pandemic Chronicles that
I
is
saw the
out,
first episode
right, awesome.
on YouTube.
So look out for that. It's in a film festival right now. And actually they're going to have it on their platform very soon, so I'll have it on my website very soon. Again, I'm working on that Edwin script I was talking to you about, that story. I'm writing that now, and I plan to shoot that here in San Antonio probably May or June of 22, so a year from now. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm always just working on stuff, so I want to shoot another short this summer. My wife's like, don't do it because you need to be concentrated on the feature, but I have this short idea, probably 10 pages or so, that I think I'm going to maybe get out.
Also, don't stop.
Yeah, I know. It's hard, but I love it. So.
Okay, no, it's part of life.
Exactly.
Your creation. Well, I appreciate you coming, Yaki Smith, and I hope to do more podcasts in the future.
Thank you for having me. It was my honor.
Thank you.